All right, everyone, we are live. And as of yet, we have no viewers. That's okay, because I'm going to interview Pat just as though we were doing an interview for my Thursday show, the Retro Serial podcast, because this is a subject that I know I'm passionate about, and I know you're passionate about as well. And I know that you've been playing guitar for quite a while, and you've been in and out of bands for quite a while. So, and I know that you kind of hang out around metal, around that kind of hard rock, heavy rock, party rock. What would you say would your main staple be?
Well, metal hadn't actually gotten popular until I was at it for quite a while. Black Sabbath had been around much longer than that,
Right.
and I never really gravitated towards them. I don't know. I wasn't a fan. I liked Led Zeppelin, or at least I thought I did, and I wouldn't classify them as a metal band, even though unfortunately they do. There's Georgia. Hey.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hey, Georgia, Eris, how you doing? As always, we are going to take, fans' questions and answers and all that stuff. We're going to go wherever you guys want to go. So let's say, hey. So I know that that's interesting because I know that Led Zeppelin, like actually, well, the members of Led Zeppelin have said that they don't like considering themselves heavy metal at
hmm.
all, where a lot of people do look up to them as kind of at least one of the forerunners of what became heavy metal.
Well, it's true. It's guitar rock, and even they didn't even like to call it a rock band. They considered themselves a blues band, which let's face it, that's where everything
Really?
comes from. The blues started it all and influenced rock. Rock begat pop. It also
Yeah.
begat the Beatles. You look at the Beatles, okay? The Beatles, you think of as a pop band, right? Well,
Right, right.
I'll remind you of a song called Helter Skelter. Um, and she's so heavy on
Yeah.
the Abbey Road album. These were metal songs. I mean, we're talking hard. They didn't consider the term metal, but they were hard rock, and so
Right.
the influences were vast. Um, so for me, again, I started off thinking, okay, I really like pop rock, Styx. We'd talked before about bands that I was very influenced by early on, vocal rock bands that had good guitar players. Around the year 1984, I joined a band called Kamikaze
Yeah.
with Dick
Hi,
Stevens.
by the way. We're good. I'm good. How are you doing, Pat?
I'm doing great. Well, I'm talking
Doing
all
great.
about myself. They're like, why is this guy doing another but talking about himself? It's because Ian asked me a
I
question
no, I
before.
really I want to know. I want to know. We're gonna get into the comment section of that, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that I'm acknowledging them, and I hope everyone gets on board here in a bit. We're filling in for Dave. Dave's on vacation. I think he's on vacation. He's not here tonight. So I decided to pop on Wednesday. I called him. I said, "Hey, do you mind if I go Wednesday?" Because I didn't want to run up against him at all. He's like, "Oh no, go right ahead." So I'll be back on either Monday or Thursdays on my regular time. But tonight we're gonna do Wednesday, so you guys can get your fix of entertainment stuff on your Wednesday night fix for whoever joins us. So you liked so you kind of you floated around. I know. Hey John, how you doing? I'm really happy to see you here, John.
My buddy
Good to see
John.
you. Um, yeah, it's kind of a weird gray area there. You know what I mean? That kind of heavy rock, but not quite heavy metal kind of stuff. Would you feel like, do you feel like that's more your jam? Like that's more what you like as far as music goes? Like you wouldn't consider like metal, like probably like some metal, but like more like you were saying sticks and things like that.
Well, initially, yes. That was my early 20s, and where I was in a kind of a glam boy band rock group that we tried to play off looks as much as musicianship and singing, and so we started off much harder but then started gravitating towards more of the pop rock vocal, what the girls like. You're not gonna get a lot of girls at a metal show. That's just the fact. I mean,
You get the
they're
girls you
there.
like at metal shows, though.
Exactly.
We know the kind of girls who hung out at those metal shows. They were.
Yes, I married one. But anyway,
Oh.
and again, that I got into a hard rock band, a metal band in 1984,
Okay.
and it was so good. And I was fortunate because these were just monster musicians.
Hmm.
We wrote incredible songs, and I can say this because it's just true. And ironically, I do retro TV trivia. This is the strange thing. It was with Dick Smothers Jr., who
Oh
was the
yeah. Okay.
son. He was the son of the Smothers brother, Dick,
Right.
Dick Smothers, and he actually backed us. He really believed in us. So it was serious. We were this close to being signed, and I think in retrospect, it's a good thing we didn't, because we probably wouldn't have survived it. It was
Yeah.
We were a fast paced kind of living
You're
living
party
the,
boys.
yeah, pretty much. But we could back it up with ability,
Mm.
and so it from that moment on, I gained a whole new appreciation for metal, for that hard edge rock. And then, of course, that year, Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance came out. To me, the epitome of metal.
Yeah.
Of course, they put out other albums, but Screaming for Vengeance there's just every song
Yeah.
is great, and I could listen to that. I mean, when I hear Electric Eye come on the radio, I mean, I stop and just turn it up, because
Yeah.
it's that old, and yet it still sounds that good. These
Yeah.
guys,
They run together for me. I know. It's not. What name some of the tracks that were on that for me?
of course, there was the hit Another Thing Coming.
Okay, yeah. I was a huge Judas Priest fan, but it was a long time ago. Of course, Rob Halford was one of the people that I looked up to the most and tried to imitate the most as far as a singer is concerned. But I don't know. I could do okay. But I just, those ones they blend together. Some of their albums for me blend together.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as classic metal, let's read this comment from Georgia Eris. Let's see. She says, "Hi, Georgia. Thank you for joining us tonight." It says, "I could not get into metal rock. I like some of Styx song, but not most of it. I am more of a Neil Diamond, Elton John type of music." I get that. I mean, it isn't for everybody. It really isn't. It was to a degree a subculture until I think it was, exploited by MTV. And then exploited by other, then the record companies wants to find out, then they get greedy, and they want to find out who's the next Judas Priest, who's big, and where's it happening? Is it happening in LA? Is it happening in Seattle? Is it happening in Georgia? Let's go over there and look for the next thing that's happening there, the next band. And then it could be a band that's not even that good, but because they're around a band that's good, boom, they get on. They get signed, and then
Well,
and yeah,
and it's true what she says. That I love all styles of music. So, when you say Neil Diamond and Elton John, I couldn't agree more. I mean, they're fantastic, and I love listening to them. Whenever they come on the radio, I turn it up.
Yep.
But it's true. When
I'm a huge fan of both of those bands too. Both of those artists, Neil Diamond and Elton John. There were some of, yeah, right.
You know what's funny is I saw Judas Priest open for Led Zeppelin in 1977.
Okay.
Wow,
that's awesome.
I did not understand a note of it. It was just noise, and I couldn't stand it. Little did I know, 7 years later, I would just be this huge fan of them. Of course, they got better as time went on. And, again, I saw Metallica when they were just coming out. and
Right.
I didn't like them either. But these guys may as well just be holding chainsaws up to the microphone.
Yeah.
They just didn't have a good mix. They were on a low level of the slot of this big festival, and boy, oh boy, did they transcend all of it.
Right.
At time, of
Well,
course, when I saw them hairspray and spandex, you know,
mhm,
that was the thing. And I mean, even they
right.
would talk about it. So yeah, it
Well,
was
my background into heavy metal, talking about heavy metal here, is that was the first style of music that I was distinct from my parents. That I got into that wasn't just, oh, I'm listening to what they're listening to on the radio. Kind of when you're a kid, especially my age, and I was growing up listening to the top 40 station, what was on the radio at the time, and but the first time that I got exposed to metal was the first time I kind of said, "Oh, I'm kind of becoming my own identity." It was in my early teens, and I was like 12 years old, somewhere around there. And my friend who's blind, he's gone now. He's gone a long time ago, like in '09, he OD'd. But a brilliant guitarist, taught me how to play guitar. And I knew him before he was blind, but right around 12 years old, he had a tragic accident and he got blind, and he burned me a copy, or not burned me a copy. He recorded a copy. I don't know what they call that, onto a tape of
right.
Iron Maiden. And I came home and I was just sold. And it was like Iron Maiden, Wasp, after that kind of thing. So, hey,
Oh,
we got a question here and I'm going to get to your comments here. Thank you for joining me. Hey, Pat, I have a question for you. Do you know all the top bands in the world personally because you were in the major band?
no, John. I certainly don't know all the top bands. I've had the pleasure of meeting quite a few name acts.
Hmm.
Befriended quite a few of them too. Lost touch with most of them at this point. Um, but yeah, there was a time, especially I think when I was doing the General Hospital thing, we were a rock band that was on that show, and it was very interesting because it was a daytime drama. Rock bands actually watched the show, so we go out and perform at our functions, and there'd be like these guys with blue hair in the audience. It would made no sense whatsoever because fans, like, well, we fans too, because we have nothing to do all day. Our shows are at night.
Right.
So we sit around and watch soap operas. So got to know a few people like that way. I don't really want to name drop, but yeah, quite a few people. Yeah,
Well,
it was very
a guy who played with Ozzy Osbourne when
yeah.
Ozzy Osbourne first went solo.
Brad Gillis.
That's,
Brad Gillis
yeah.
was actually in Night Ranger.
Yes.
Phenomenal guitar player. Very strange how I got to know Brad. He initially stole my girlfriend. Yes, I mean, not just a girlfriend. I was in love with this gal, and she went to one of his shows, and she was off. And he hadn't gotten the Ozzy gig yet, but imagine how that felt to me. Who wanted to be
Yeah.
this guitar player. It's like, sorry, Pat, I've met someone new. He's Ozzy's new guitar player. And I was just devastated. Well, then Night Ranger Dawn Patrol came out. Oh,
Mm,
and I listened to it and went, now I'm really devastated because, I mean, when it comes to guitar playing, those guys were
yeah.
they're the best. Well, fast forward 20 years, he's playing in a band with another friend of mine, just a side band. We got to know each other. We hit it off. We became friends, totally removed from the fact that he stole my girlfriend, and and then went on to be this big star. And he played on both of my solo albums. So,
Mm,
you know, very
cool.
different. Yeah.
Right on. All right. So got a couple things here. The friendship game is important in the band world. I think it's almost like bands start out being friends, then by the end of the band, they all hate each other, or they get along for a while. It's difficult to be in a band for a while. And then yeah, the band that I was in for a while, well, I've been in a couple, but they weren't nearly as popular. We were popular locally in this one band. And though this is back when music was kind of moving forward, is like 90s kind of thing like that. And we had one guy who was the guitarist who wrote a lot of music. He still had the mullet going, and everybody was kind of shunning the mullet thing. And he and I didn't get along because I wanted to write the lyrics for the songs. And his lyrics, in my opinion, were really stupid. And mine were really clever. And I'm a lyricist at heart. Okay, that's the big thing that I am, is I am a lyricist at heart. And a dang good one at that, actually. And so I didn't like singing his songs. They were a bit hokey. They were a bit cheesy. They were a bit, blood in the snow, and kind of things, just kind of things that were kind of going away, and more
You know,
introspective lyrics were coming in. So, but he and I kind of split up. Yeah.
Danny
he
will tell you, never eat the blood in the snow or the yellow snow, especially
right.
big wolf boy. And who knows what Bigfoot urines taste. Hey, wait, am I getting off on this? I'm a big fan of you, Danny. But
Yes,
that
Danny,
right,
for sure.
what he's getting at, Ian, is the psychological aspect of being in bands. I think that's what you're getting at, Danny. And you're right. Well, let's just
It'd be
face it.
like
Being in a band,
Motley.
you're a psych major. You learn about human nature the hard way.
Right. You'd be like
And
Motley Crue at the end of their stuff. They showed up in completely different tours, buses, and wouldn't travel together and things like that.
just
And
where
he writes this. This is weird. I used to sing Dave on. Yeah, Dave is on. I think he's on vacation. I can't remember, but he said, "Hey, go ahead and go Wednesday. It's all good."
actually
Uh,
we fired him. I got my 1,000. Dave, you can go now. You're done.
All right. Okay. I saw Ted Nugent, Skid Row without Sebastian Bach. I know they had a sound alike. They kind of had a sound alike Sebastian Bach for a bit there, and Kiss all in concert. That's cool. I would have liked to have seen Skid Row with Sebastian Bach.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Oh,
So,
phenomenal.
yeah. Any of those bands you like there? Ted Nugent, Skid Row.
All of them. And
Okay.
of course,
All right.
I saw Kiss. I saw the original Kiss, which was really cool. I had no
All right.
idea just how amazing a show could be. What was really strange was seeing all the grandmothers in the audience. That was bizarre. That's something I think I'll never forget, because they were marketed on a lunch pail. They were marketed like a circus act, and they drew their audience. It was so bizarre, and they'll even talk about it. How initially they'd go out on stage thinking they'd see a bunch of rock fans, and there'd be Tommy and Tina, age 7 and 9, with the whole family, and they'd just come out spitting blood and
Yeah.
just full on volume and explosions. And oh man,
Kiss actually said that they had a difficult time with that. I heard an interview where they would say, "Look, we weren't prepared to be like a family act. That wasn't like our deal. Our deal was, girls and gold and and glory. That was the deal. And so
which
yeah, huh?
which happened, but yeah, I saw firsthand that strange family thing. I saw it
Yeah.
firsthand. It was so bizarre. It just didn't fit. Then I went to an Iron Maiden show and I thought I was going to die. Completely the opposite. M80s going off right next to your head, fights everywhere, brawls.
Wow.
Quite
Wow.
a
Those
scene.
yeah. Those was it called Nuwala? Is that that type of metal?
Boy, that's a
Uh,
new one for me.
yeah, it was called, I think it was called Nuwala. It was those bands, those British heavy metal bands at that era, that late 70s, early 80s. I can't remember though. I know there's a name for them, but they were famous for like getting into fights and stuff like that. That was just crazy. Is
You
there a
know
question for
Well, I was going to
go
say,
ahead.
who did get in a fight with the audience was their opening band, Twisted Sister.
Oh, really?
you'd see Twisted Sister with the makeup and the fingernail polish. Those guys were scary. I mean, they were ready to
Yeah.
take on anybody that looked at me, that looked at them the wrong way. And I saw the bass player jumped off the stage and started beating people up. It was like, wow, Twisted Sisters, these guys are bad dudes.
Right, right.
And anyway,
So he
that's
has
it.
a question for you here, Pat. The point of the question was so that you would name drop. Oh, I see. Oh, so you can name drop some names. Go ahead if you want to name drop. You're more
Oh,
than
well,
welcome to. But if
okay.
you don't feel comfortable doing it, I don't know. It's up. I'll leave it up to you.
Well, I mean, these aren't friends that I stay in touch with. It's more like who I've come across, who I've met, and pretty much the who's who. I mean, okay, Alice Cooper, okay, Sammy Hagar, uh, Billy Idol. Let's see, the list goes on, and I can't accumulate all of, but geez, lots of people.
Yeah.
I'm dropping names. I never met anybody in Judas Priest. I never met anybody in Maiden. I had a brief pass with James Hetfield once, and he was very nice.
Did you
So
tell him his guitarist wasn't any good?
no, I really,
Because we know what you think about that. That's I had to get that in there. It's an inside joke to people who have listened to our interview on Guitar Heroes. But write all the
right.
hate mail to Pat here, not to me.
Unfortunately, it's not an inside joke anymore. I was just like, oh, that's an opinion I
Yeah.
should have myself.
I don't. No, it's
Whatever.
okay. Look. I don't like Warrant. Every time I get on a show and I say, look, I don't like Warrant, man, I never did. And they're like, oh, didn't you listen to this? Yeah, I listened to it. It's just not good. I don't like it.
I
So I mean,
love
we all have our bands that everyone loves but you hate, and we all have, you know what I mean, yeah, or our guitarist or whatever. We all have that where everybody in the world goes, oh, this is the best band ever, and you're going, I just don't, or at least an aspect of it. And like, yeah, for me, I just, yeah, Janie Lane's voice was too nasally, and I hate to speak ill of the dead, and I want to be positive on the show. It's a big thing for me to be positive, but you don't like
Well,
Kurt Hammett. I get it, and I don't like Janie Lane.
you said that. I didn't say that. No, no, no. Let's face it. If you're a survivor in this business, and it's dangerous, you gotta admire whoever. And I could say, yeah, I don't like this guy, and he'd be like, yeah, you don't like me, don't like me, but I'm headed to the bank.
Right.
All the
Hey,
way to the
look, yeah,
baby. Don't like me.
right.
I'm sitting here going, I wish I had $5 for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
More
wish
like,
I did too. Right. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I don't begrudge anybody for trying, and I don't begrudge them for their success either. It's just taste, man. It's just like,
exactly
All
right.
right, let's see here. John Collins writes to me, Ian, when did you go from rocker to preacher? I was always both. Even as a kid, I was both. I lived with my foot in the world for a little while, but like my friends all knew my Christianity and stuff like that. So it was never a both, just kind of one out more than the other. But I still consider myself deeply into rock music. I really do love rock music. But when did I go? I don't know. I mean, it's difficult to say. It's like not Ted Nugent, Alice Cooper. Alice
Mhm.
Cooper, like him, and Dave Mustaine
Yeah.
as well, So
Alice
you can have. Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
was a great guy. Love him. Just
Yeah.
so down to earth. Wonderful person. Got to play with him a couple songs. That was an honor. But yeah, it's a good question though for you, Ian. You know, I feel like religion or preachers and performers kind of the same thing. You're getting up on stage and you're putting it out there. But of course, metal always had that moniker of the devil's music.
The
You know,
darker kind of art music. Yes.
believe me, a lot of them liked that aspect because it added a little more mystery, kind of like, ooh, it's scary. Let's love this. But of course, I'm curious, what was your take in that? Was there a group of friends of yours or peers that were like, Ian, you may be speaking the word of God, but what you listen to is going to send you straight to hell. I mean, is that's an
That
issue?
still happens. You sound
No, it
like my
doesn't.
wife.
And who you
um,
talking to, too, right? Like me.
so I am not as much into. I've expressed this before. I'm not quite as much into heavy metal as I was when I was younger. I listen to heavy metal now mostly. I kind of got reinterested in it about 10 years ago when I started running, and I just needed something fast paced. Kickstart my heart, run to the hills. Something fast paced. So I started to appreciate it again. But there was a long time there from at least my late teens to early 20s where I really wasn't more into metal. But that doesn't mean I was into like some type of super spiritual groups. I got more into the introspective aspects like Nirvana and things like that. That I went that route a little bit more. Um, um, but I don't know where I was going with that. You asked me a question.
I,
I totally
I think
forgot.
the fundamentalist point of view of it is that it's not, it's evil. It's against God. And
There are certain aspects that can be, and I still to this day do try to stay away from it. I mean, it's kind of like if they start glorifying things that aren't Christian, but then I kind of have a hard time, with that. I normally listen to it just for the beat, or something like that, like when I'm running. But uh, but to explain the struggles of life in a musical setting isn't necessarily sinful. You know what I mean? It's not that I don't see that as sinful. I
right.
don't see anything on the guitar or any type of music inherently being bad or anything like that. So, for somebody to do, just crazy guitar licks and stuff like that, that's none of that's just a style of music. I mean, you can only look to bands like Blood Good and Petra and Striper and things like that to say, hey, you can put good lyrics to that. So, I can't say I'm totally consistent either, Pat. I
Me either, man.
I like things that I sometimes shouldn't like. I really do, and then I have to repent of those things later. A good thing I'm saved by grace through faith and not of works. So
Right.
I will leave it at that. George Eris asked, "What days do the two of you broadcast regularly?" I try to broadcast on Mondays mostly, but it's not always happening. And you don't you don't do any live stream except for with me and Dave, right? At this point, or
No, not yet. Not yet. I'm testing the waters and exploring options. Mainly it's just been about content creation for me, um, with my passion, which is classic television, which is of course how we became good friends because you're
right?
retro, and we have the same sort of interests. But I'm also looking at podcasts and all of the other aspects that I think I could be pretty good at. But for now, it's really just been about get a lot of content out there and show people that you can be a ham in front of a camera. So far, so good.
And congratulations too on hitting that 1,000K. I was there to see that when that happened with Dave the other morning. Was it Tuesday morning or something like that? Or
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
no, Monday morning.
that
Eh,
was awesome.
yeah, that was really cool to finally
It made
see
me
you hit.
tears, actually.
um,
It made me cry. I was so
Yeah,
touched by that.
right. All right, Danny Staten says, I seen everyone you can name in the 80s. I saw his in 77 and Black Sabbath before that. I'm old. Black Sabbath. I think um, I think Black Sabbath is really considered the first, like you can put a pin in it, heavy metal band. I think Black Sabbath is considered the first one, but I'm not sure. I heard that, but who knows? I'm sure it's disputed because it's more of a movement. But what do you think?
Well, I think Black Sabbath may have made a better character in that Kiss versus the Army of Darkness thing that he had up, Danny, which was a comic book that he was going over that I loved. It's amazing how they throw these bands, especially Kiss, into just about any kind of scenario. Um,
Right.
but yeah, let's face it, it was Black Sabbath that came up with that tritone, dark note, scary. Let's make it spooky. And then we'll have that aura of scary. And then we'll have this guy sing about, say the word Satan. And none of them were taking it serious. It was just that dark push. And then I saw this thing on Ronnie James Dio where he was saying, I'm not a Satanist. Matter of fact, please, people, be good. But know that it's the dark, that aura of darkness that really adds the power to the passion of that metal, that hard rock experience. That's the only place where that really comes from. So, and again, Black Sabbath, you're basically putting it right into the title of the band.
Right.
Lord knows there's been plenty of bands that have done that. And unfortunately, some that really do take it serious. And, none of that ever turns out good. So,
no,
I mean,
no.
but
all right.
It's there's more people that really get on the positive side, I think, of it than anything.
Yeah. Well, George Aris asked a question that how do you answer this? I don't know. I'm not Gene Simmons, so I would have no idea. Do either of you believe Gene Simmons slept with all the women he claims? I remember there was an interview, and it was back on Oprah back in the late 80s or something like that, where he says, well, I don't know how many women I slept in the last year, but in my whole life, it's been 5,000. If anybody could make a claim to that and have it be accurate, it'd be him. So who knows? Who knows?
Well, I totally believe it. Matter of fact, I'm only off by about a half dozen from that anyway. So
okay.
Wait a minute. Can we edit that? No.
This is going out live, buddy.
As I was saying about Gene, I'm sure, him and Paul really, they're fun. Me, I just go back to the hotel room, have some milk and cookies, and watch the late show.
Nobody is throwing themselves at you.
No.
Oh, look, Pat. He wants to know, where does somebody get that T-shirt? Yeah, I've got one of those shirts. I wear it.
Well, as simple as this. And be careful what you say, Pat. But you can email me, goldenragetv@gmail, and I'll just tell you how to get one. It's basically just shipping and handling. I'll send one out to you, John. My pleasure. So, come one, come all. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not that stocked up. So, if anybody wants one, just reach out and I'll see what I got in my box. And
okay,
you can support me. This was one of those experiments. I was very happy with the logo. And so I thought, what, I better start printing it on stuff. And T-shirts came to mind, and it worked pretty well. So anyway, thanks, John. I'll look forward to getting that from you, or getting an email from you.
Georgia Aris writes, Alice Cooper did a super job when he guest starred in the Muppets TV series. I didn't see that one, but that makes sense that he would do something like that.
Yeah, well, I didn't see it either, but of course they had everybody. That was a huge hit of a show that attracted the A-list of celebrities, and even the off-center ones like that.
Yeah,
and Alice was, he is like the polar opposite of the character that you see on stage. I mean, he is just the most down-to-earth, sweet. I mean, smart man. Oh my gosh, I was amazed at how at ease he made me when I was in his presence. So
right. Well, I remember him on Wayne's World too. Yeah, that was funny. And then we're not worthy, and he's like, oh, kiss the ring.
Right. Yeah, that was the time I actually was good friends with his band, and they were in that scene with him, and it was funny because one of the guitar players left, and I went and auditioned for the part, and found out, man, you got it, you're in. I was like, oh, that's great. Then I came back with, but you don't look drawn out enough.
Oh, really?
You're not fitting the look of the rest of these guys, which is kind of scary. So I didn't get that one.
Wasn't that his Poison era? Wasn't that his like that song Poison? I don't mean Poison the band, but it was
Poison era. Yeah, great song.
Right. Yeah,
Great
that
stuff.
was kind of when he tapped into a little bit more of the hair metal kind of music that was getting popular. Not that he ever was that, but that song definitely did skirt those. And there were a few bands who crossed over. I mean, if you look at like early Def Leppard, I would have not considered them a hair band, but you look at, like if you look at is it Diver Down? Which one has which their earlier popular ones, and then Hysteria. Hysteria is definitely
Well,
hair
Pumpmania
pop.
was the one that exploded for them for sure, and that was got the huge MTV play. And yeah, they were
Oh yeah,
very big in.
Pyromania. That's it. Pyromania.
Mhm.
That's the one. Yeah, I remember fifth grade. A friend of mine showed up with that album and
Yeah,
played some songs from that
great,
one. I was into Paul McCartney at that time though. Fifth grade. It was before I was. Yeah, Paul McCartney was my
as
big
you
deal.
should be.
Paul, right. All right, let's see. John Collins writes, Pat, I enjoy all your videos, particularly where you had animation in them. Cool.
Thanks, John. I experimented with all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah. And Danny Staten says, I did a Rolling Stones comic book where Ozzy shows up and saves them from a demon. Cool. I can't believe the amount of comics that are out there. That was crazy. And then you had a Guns N' Roses comic book. That was
Oh,
nuts. That was crazy. And Tracy Rothmeyer says, hi, guys.
crazy.
Hey, Tracy. Let's see. Danny Staten says, wow, I'm like McDonald's when it comes to chicks over 1 million served. Well, I think that's a billion with McDonald's, right? Well, good for
Oh,
you.
oh,
Tracy Rothmeyer's writes to you, Pat. I'm happy that you hit the 1K. I think you were there too, weren't you, Tracy? I think you were there. Yeah, I remember seeing you on the live stream as well.
thank you.
Um,
Very nice.
Pat writes, or John Collins writes, Pat, how many of these bands whom are known for the dark side image, but it's like when I read, it's like I'm reading for the first time. Like I don't know how to read. Is this reading? Is this what reading is? Am I
Well,
doing it right?
unfortunately, I can see it too, so I'm able to get to the gist of it. And
All right. Okay. Really old
yes,
and young. Okay.
some were, some weren't, and there be all kinds. You'd see all kinds, and
Yeah.
it's just, it's as I said earlier, it was a really dangerous business. Even though it was fun for that couple hours on stage, you had to really make sure the rest of the time that you weren't on stage that you were taking care of yourself, or you were not going to survive or make it at least through the day or through the tours. You'd find the guys that would fill their time with positive things. For instance, I saw this thing on an Iron Maiden. They're avid golfers. These guys,
Mm,
so you just don't picture them out on the links. But man, they're all about that, and couldn't be a more healthy thing to do during your day rather than
right.
sit around and drink and do drugs. Which of course plenty bands did too. Didn't last very long, and Iron Maiden's still going, so that tells you something, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of those people, they want to burn out quick too. You know what I mean? Like that's their goal. Their goal is to just do as much crazy stuff as possible. It's, death by excess kind of thing. All right, let's see. Tracy Rothmeyer's writes, I love Def Leppard.
Yeah,
I love Tracy Rothmeyer, the one who was really, really into underground music. I remember you naming all kinds of bands, and you love Def Leppard. Good for you. I'm just kidding with you, Tracy.
there's no
That's
denying
cool.
they were great, and especially
Ah,
their earlier stuff.
yeah.
It started kind of as time went on. It was like, yeah, maybe you guys ought to just go with I
Did you
love.
like it when they got Vivian Campbell in the
Yeah,
band?
that's right.
Yeah, I thought because the other guitarist died, and then they got
That's right.
Vivian Campbell, and that
Wow.
was kind of the last time I really listened to them. I was a fan of Pyromania,
Yeah.
was not a fan of Hysteria. Even at the time, that was kind of like, oh well, didn't really like it. But the Vivian Campbell, I thought, I didn't really listen to the whole album, but the songs that I heard, I thought were pretty solid. I was surprised. It's kind of difficult to go from Dio to, Def Leppard and really make that work. And with a band like that, it's always like, who are we going to get next?
Yeah.
Who are we going to get to fill in for this person? And is it going to be the right move? You know, um, Especially when it comes to guitarists, like guitarists and singers. Now, I love drums and bass players. They're awesome, and sometimes you get an occasional drummer or bassist who kind of makes the band it is. The Pixies were like that, but a guitarist is like, that's a style. That's like saying I'm going to change my nose.
Right.
I'm going to get plastic surgery. You got to get the right fit for that.
I
Go
think
ahead.
they were I think they were very fortunate that they got guys that were able to assimilate into the band, because that wasn't even Phil Collins. He wasn't an original member. Matter of fact,
I didn't know.
first album, Def Leppard, a buddy of mine had had it, and this was before they'd been signed, and it was great. Oh my gosh, I remember first time I heard that, and their original guitar player was named Pete. Oh, help me, Tracy. Pete. Oh boy.
I
Anyway,
don't remember.
Steve Clark and Pete. It's right on the tip of my tongue. They were the original, and
Mm.
then Phil Collins came in because Pete was too much excess, and so I think they got fortunate in that they had guys that assimilated. Plus, they had that. I mean, Mutt Lange came in and took the reins of their production, and it's the best produced, some of the best produced music ever. In fact, that was hard rock. It was really cool. It's really cool that it succeeded like that. But
Yeah.
there was that extra guy. There was that extra, the producer that really helped create. There's a documentary or even a dramatiz what do they call them? Where it's the actual story of the band played by actors.
Oh, okay.
What do they call
I
those?
think I saw that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Not the
Well,
best, but it was pretty accurate, in
yeah.
what they went through. And boy, oh boy, just really interesting, and just how
Well,
instrumental Mutt Lange was to their sound.
yeah. Was he the one who produced? Um,
Jason,
no, was he the one that produced Diver Down? And,
uh,
um,
he produced all of them from Pyromania forward. If I'm not mistaken.
so that's the guy who was doing the Eden, Gleeden, Godden, Gloden.
Yeah,
He was the guy who did that. Was because that was
yes,
kind of because there was a thing about that, about like what was that, and they were like, oh, that was like a timekeeping thing, like a 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of a thing, like
right.
that. The Daily Dan blog says, "Hey, I love you guys on all my channels. We love all of your channels. I'm subscribed to all of them, and I try to leave as many comments as I can on each one of them. It's true, I do. Awesome." And then Trace, it's like Ozzy loves Elton John. Yeah, maybe you're talking about the taste in music I was talking about, and I missed that one. Yes, uh, kind of, because she was on. This girl knew a lot. I don't mean to gender assign or whatever. This girl knew a lot of bands like that. That I was like, wow, she knows a lot of underground bands, because we did an underground episode, and it was like, she was naming them, man. I'm like, yeah, I know that band. And she was naming some bands that I didn't know. So I was like really
Tracy
super impressed.
Tracy is hip, Ian. We call it hip.
She's super hip.
Danny
Love
is
her.
demented. We call him demented, but we love him too. I gotta tell you,
Yeah,
anybody that isn't watching Danny and his, oh man, you gotta watch his videos. They are so entertaining. Scares
love
the
them.
heck out of me sometimes, but that's good because I like to be scared. And I see Bigfoot in every one of those darn videos. So you just capture them already, will you?
Yeah, just get him. There's a movie about Bigfoot being so sad he committed suicide or something like that. I don't know if you saw
Maybe
that
that's why
movie.
he hasn't found him. Uh,
Yeah, the one-armed drummer. Yeah, yeah. I mean, good for him to keep it up, though. You know what I mean? Good for him to keep it up. That was a sad situation, but
oh,
um,
amazing.
all
Amazing that
right.
he just, well, according to that biopic, that's it. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay.
It was a thing that said, yeah, you lost your arm, but you're not going to quit. Figure it out.
Oh,
Figure it out. And it inspired him to throw together a new technique for playing the drums with one arm. And
yeah,
he did it. Amazing.
and it worked. John Collins writes, "Have you all seen the movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg? It's like a behind-the-scenes Rockstar life." I did see that movie. That was crazy. That was a long time ago. It was a really Dragon was what was the name of the band? Still Dragon.
Steel Dragon. No, wait, that's a real band.
Is it?
Maybe, maybe not. Well, yeah. Anyway, yes, John, I've seen that movie. It's all wrong. I mean, it's It's not fabricated. It's made larger than it really is. Matter of fact, Tom Cruise did one recently too, where he was a rock star.
Rock of
That,
Ages.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, both those. That actually made more sense because they made it a musical and sang through the whole thing. Whereas the Mark Wahlberg thing was like, wow, none of it happens like that.
Really?
None of it. I mean,
No.
maybe a few things, but it was they really they just they made it a fictionalized kind of story, yet somewhat based on fact. So yeah, I mean they
Yeah,
used
it's not.
real, in that film, which was great. So I
They
like
used
that.
what?
They used real players in his band. Zach Wild was the guitar player, who was of course with Ozzy for years,
Yeah.
and the bass player was with Dawkins for uh, oh Pill. Jeff Pill was the bass player, and so they used real players. That way there was realism. Um,
I didn't know that. I didn't know
yeah,
that it was Zach Wild and
yeah. Look
Jeff
again.
Pill.
It's true.
Wow. Cool. Cool. Two of my favorite bands actually back. Dokken was one of my absolute favorite bands in the 80s. I mean, really, they were part of the trifecta of it was Dokken, Rat, and Motley Crue were the trifecta of LA bands that I really enjoyed. Yes.
You know what's funny, Ian, is you say that, and you asked me earlier what got me into it. I told you I got in this band called Kamikaze with Dick Smothers Jr. He said, "Come see us at this club. We're opening for Dawkins, and see if you want to join because we're going to get rid of the guitar player we got." And I went and saw
Oh,
him, and I am not lying to you. I am a Dawkins fan. Kamikaze blew them away.
really? Really? Wow.
And
Oh, I believe it. I mean, I
I,
totally believe it.
I'm
It's
in.
great. Yeah, you're in. You're in. Um, John Collins, right? Mutt Lang was smart. He married a Shania Twain. Cool. I didn't know
and,
that.
and produced her albums too.
I know
Wow.
too many. Yeah, too many bands. You and me both. I
It
can
was
name some obscure music. If you haven't listened to any of the obscure music that I talked about last time, Tracy, you need to. Seriously, I think that the bands that I kind of recommended that were a little bit underground that maybe you haven't heard of, I think you'd really like them. And we did a video one time on obscure bands where we talked about our five most obscure metal bands. We did five obscure metal bands, but I know a lot of obscure other bands too. Lifesavers. Let me plug this one to you, Tracy. You can search this in. It's on YouTube. It's free. Lifesavers Huntington Beach. Lifesavers Huntington Beach. Real classic, kind of Pixies type of punk kind of sound to that. Really good, really good. I don't want to throw too many because if I throw too many, then people they like, oh, it's just barrage of bands. I'm not sure to look up. So I'll just throw that one. You listen to that one. You get back to me. You tell me what you think, because I'm very interested in your opinion. You know a lot of bands too, though. I mean, you were naming some bands on that last one that I had no idea existed. So that's just the price that you come by being a musician, right?
Yes. I mean, it's true. And you can draw influence from so many people. That's the beauty of it. And when you look at my videos, for instance, on my music playlist on my channel, you'll hear influences from all these bands that we've been talking about. Of course, it's all instrumental, but I'm inspired by all these cats. And again, that's the beauty of it. You can draw on their genius and create your own stuff.
Right, right. Yeah, women for women instead of girls. I think I called Tracy. I said, "Hey, girl." So I didn't mean anything by that. I really didn't. I get it. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, "Oh, am I overstepping my boundaries here?"
I mean, what's the deal? What's the girl?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it was. I am
I'm gonna
into a
play a
lot.
girl, Tracy. Sorry, girl. I'm a boy.
I'm
Is
a
that
boy
wrong?
too. I'm a boy. No, I mean instead of a woman is what I meant. Like a
Oh,
not a girl, like the women
I'm a
women
man
instead of
too.
girl. Yeah. Oh, I don't think she was offended.
I don't
So
think so.
cool. Thanks for the lead. I love the Pixies. Yeah, I get it. I love the Pixies too. They were a great band. And Indie Cindy, by the way, the Pixies, Indie Cindy, their new one that has a new bassist, has the new bassist in it, was a phenomenal album. And they've had one since Indie Cindy, but is that, I know that it was the name of the lead song on there, but I think that whole album is really good. It's classic Pixies. I mean, they pick it straight up from Doolittle and from um, Trompe la Mode. I mean, I don't know. Were you a Pixies fan, Pat, or was that kind of out of your wheelhouse?
I'll tell you, whenever I went to the movies and I'd go to the concession stand, it was straight for those pixie sticks because it was like, sugar, baby.
Yeah.
And I'm not my
Okay.
thing.
Different kind of Pixie.
I'm,
That's a different kind of Pixie.
I'm more of a fairy person than a
Oh,
pixie.
I see. All right.
Not
Right.
literally, just figuratively.
Right. Right.
This
I
is,
get it.
this is going. This is. I don't like where this is going.
Yeah. What
No, I
about the
don't know the
band?
Pixies.
Huh? You
I
went
don't
into
know the Pixies very well. No, I know the name.
Oh,
I've never really.
so really, everybody who's a musician should at least listen to Doolittle. That's kind of their classic album is Doolittle. But I like everything they do. But Doolittle's kind of the one. Probably if you've heard anything from the Pixies, it's off of Doolittle. Remember that show with Christian Slater where he did pirate radio? That might be the name of it. Do you remember that show where he was doing pirate radio and he was getting himself in trouble? And he was playing a lot of I don't know. He was playing like the Descendants and stuff. The Pixies are on there. Wave of Mutilation, and there's was one of their more popular ones. It's good though. It's super good. Definitely a big influence on Nirvana.
Mhm.
Nirvana's really kind of like more of a dirty, grungier version of the Pixies.
I'd heard Kurt Cobain mention them. That's when I
Yeah.
think I first became aware of the Pixies and the Meat Puppets. Too was very
Yes.
interesting.
All right. Classic bands here. Let's see. Cool. Thanks for the lead. I love the Pixies. Oh, I think I maybe went past that. Oh, Georgia writes, "What do you think of Paul McCartney in Wings Days?" Go ahead, Pat. It's
I
all you.
loved it. I loved it.
Mhm.
I mean, as time went on, no, let me just say this: the Wings era was great. He put out so many great rocking type songs that still had that Beatlesque twist, melodic twist, and no, it was fantastic. Their live concert film is phenomenal. Um, I'm not a big fan of what he did after that. I felt like it
Mm.
just kind of got a little okay, Paul. You've done everything. You've played every note. And I still felt like during Wings era, he was still hungry. There was still
Yeah.
real fire for what he was doing and creating. Plus, you have your wife in the band at the same time. It's just what a wonderful setup.
Yeah.
And that was just a great band. So yeah, loved it.
Loves it too. So my first album that I ever got, I got it for Christmas when I was, I believe, 9 years old. I got 3 albums that year for Christmas, 3 or 4, and I just got a record player. And one of the albums that I got was Paul McCartney, Pipes of Peace. And I loved that was after his Wings days, of course, but I was 9 or 10 or something like that. And that was the one with Say, Say, Say on it. And at the time, you could still call up the radio station and request, say, you could request songs. And every time I was home, I call and request that song, say, say, say. So, but that was, you're talking about beyond, that was probably around the time you kind of dropped out as far as listening to him.
I'm going to get in trouble again. I just thought it got schmaltzy.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just got watered down. And Wings, man, there was fire there. And yet he'd go off into what was the song? Bluebird.
Mm-hmm.
Loved that song, and it's not it's not a hard rock song. Not that they were either, but I just felt like they were almost an extension of what he would have done with the Beatles if the Beatles were still together.
Yeah,
felt like they were his extension. Denny Lane, sounded so much like John Lennon that when the harmonies were just amazing. And yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't take that anyway, ENC. Cool, thank you. Powdered sugar, got to be a reference to the Pixies, the candy,
yes,
the Pixies.
Absolutely.
John Collins, how do you guys feel about the movie Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man? Go ahead. I'll go second on both of these. So
I didn't see Rocket Man. I saw Bohemian, and I thought that was much more true to point of what it was like, or what it must have been like for them. Granted, they were extremely unique group of players. I mean, it was almost like none of them really should have been in a band together. They had these extremely different. They weren't of like kind like the Beatles. They were a separate type of entity that, when they came together, was just this huge powerhouse of a rock band. So I thought that was probably a lot more true to form than, say, Rockstar with Wahlberg. And obviously it did quite well. But no, I didn't see Rocket Man. No.
Yeah. I didn't see either of them. That's why I didn't want to say anything about it. I heard reviews on both of them, and the what you're saying is all true. But as far as like how they met and them breaking up, and I heard that was all like not even close to what really happened as far as the band is concerned. So I don't know. I was never a Queen fan. I always liked Queen. So don't misunderstand me. Like, it was one of those bands that if they were ever on, I'd listen to them, but it's not like I went out and bought any albums or anything like that. They just weren't necessarily in my wheelhouse. But they're all great. They were all great musicians, great great music. I think I told you that we did a little. I don't know if I told you this, Pat, but I'll repeat it. But the backward masking stuff. Right. I don't know if you knew this, but another one bites the dust backwards to start to smoke marijuana. And that friend of mine who was blind, he is a guitarist who was blind. Because he was blind, he got books on tape. Like, he could get any book on tape. He had a catalog, the government sent it to him, but he had this special tape player that played four tracks. That had 4 sides to the tape player. So you could listen to 4 sides of somebody reading a book. But if you put a regular tape in and you put it on side 3 or side 2, which would be like the in between, it would play it backwards. And we took a Queen song because we heard it on the radio, so we tried it ourselves, and he could play things backwards on a regular tape because it was a special tape player for blind people. And we played it backwards, and it does. And the weirdest thing about it is, even if you sit and say into the tape recorder. Another one bats dust. Another one bats dust. If you just say that in the tape recorder and play it backwards, it says start to smoke marijuana. Over and over again. It's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest thing. So yeah, that's my extent with Queen. That's yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, listen, look at this. I choose Leprechaun. You ever hear of that band?
No. But I'm
No.
pretty sure Danny's seen quite a few of them out in the forests of South Carolina.
Right, right. Okay, we are going to tie this thing up here. We're getting hit at the hour mark, and I can tell my guest here is getting weary of talking and probably listening to me. So I'm going to take this last question here. Queen had a much different personalities from each other. Yes, yes. All right. Before you leave, everyone, I love Spinal Tap. That was a great. The Spinal Tap was hilarious, wasn't it? Before you leave, everyone, please do me the favor of. I'm sure everyone's already subscribed to Pat's channel here.
Everyone.
If you
Anyone.
if you haven't, go ahead. Danny Staten, he's got he's got a channel too. If anybody else out there has a channel, go subscribe. Do me the favor, take one of these videos, take one of my videos on my channel and share it on your favorite social media. Before we close down, I want to put that out there. Yeah, just take one of them, your favorite one, and share it on your favorite social media. Get everybody subscribed as you can. At 250, that's great. I love being at 250. That seems to be where things start to head out. Like 250, then they start to roll downhill if you continue to produce content. It's been a blast. I love these times that I have with you. I know that it's a smaller group, but you guys are so interactive with me. You make it so much fun to do this. I really, really appreciate it. If you want to support me, please head on over to Retro Cereal on Patreon and become either a Tip Jar member or a Cornflake Club member. And coming soon is the Honeycomb Hideout. You're not going to want to miss that. So special content for the Honeycomb Hideout. Nighters, okay, and then yes, and Nighters. All right, we will talk to you guys later. Take care.